Ben, I think we're ready to go live, so I think we got to give you a couple minutes. Just let me know once we're live on YouTube.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Okay, Mr. Chair, we're live.
Well, thank you, Ben. Let's go ahead and call November 9th BPAC meeting to order. Ms. Glorioso Mas, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Member Eric Abo,
Here.
Member Angela Bordray, Member Yolanda Eisenstein. Here. Member Tony Gerlix, Member Dan Painter, Member Steve Pilcher.
Here.
Member Ben Pengili, he's late, he's coming. Member Carl Spencer,
Here.
Chair Michael Garcia.
Present.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Fantastic. Next up is approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes tonight from staff?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Staff is requesting to remove agenda items 6B and 8B.
Okay, so we have a request to remove item 6B, which is an update from Santa Fe Conservation Trust, and 8B, which is a request for approval to amend Resolution 2018-72 to provide directions or guidance for installation and maintenance of sharrows. Oh, no, that's 7B. 8B is promotion, education, and programming, because Member Gabriel is absent tonight.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, fantastic. Any other changes from membership? And if none, may I get a motion to approve as amended?
Move to approve.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Or none? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we have an agenda set. Approval of the minutes from our October 12th, 2023 meeting minutes. Ms. Glorioso Mas, do you have any changes from?
None from staff, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Any changes from members? Yes.
Just had a question.
Sure, absolutely.
And forgive me if I have misremembered the way we left it as far as meeting minutes being, the discussion about meeting minutes. I just didn't see a reflection in these minutes, statement about that of some sort. That
I think we had just said we're going to only do motions, not really get into the discussions portion of it, just because that's what's been required by the directive given from my understanding, the city manager on down for the recording of minutes. And so I think it's a good thing we have now the YouTube function, because we can go back and watch, but with the minutes won't really reflect discussion topics, so to speak, mainly motions and actions taken by the body.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from members? Okay, if none, may I get a motion to approve? Move to approve. So we've got a motion, but we'll go member Eisenstein and then sorry. Filter. I was gonna say paint. I don't know why I kept saying filter, painter, and
It's all the P's.
it's I was sure it's Thursday. I just want to make sure it's good. Got the motions down. Any discussion? No discussion. May we get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Member Abo,
Yes.
Member Bordray, Member Eisenstein, Member Gerlix, Member Painter, Member Pilcher,
Yes.
Member Pengili, Member Spencer,
Yes.
Chair Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Next up is communications from the public. Do we have any members from the public today that would like to address us? 2 minutes. Okay, and I don't know, given that we are going live, we have access for Zoom comments? Or is it, we're just broadcasting YouTube, we're not using Zoom function?
Yeah, there are no comments from the Prime Gov.
Okay. Well, my question was more so when we go live on YouTube, sometimes we'll have the functionality to go through Zoom as well to allow for members to remotely provide comment and,
Mr. Chair, I just was informed yesterday, so we did not have the time to put it on the agenda that the members of the public can call in or attend the webinar.
okay,
Yeah, so there's none.
okay. Sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Hey, thank
Sure.
you. And since we have no members from the public and nobody's online, since we're not using that function, let's go to move on to item 6, communications from other agencies. First up, we will have an update from Santa Fe MPO. How's it going?
Says push. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I just have a couple of really quick updates for you all. One is a really exciting invitation. Tomorrow, I don't know if Eric included all of you on it or not, but Chuck Marone, who is the founder of the Strong Towns organization, author of a really good book if you're a transportation nerd called Confessions of a Recovering Engineer. And he's kind of a leading expert in changing the way that we do things in our cities to make them more economically prosperous and also better for livability for everyone in them. So he's coming tomorrow. He'll be in Santa Fe, and Eric reserved a room, the sunroom, at As Above, So Below, and he'll be there 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And everyone is welcome to join and see if you can get in a few minutes with Chuck. Less exciting news, our bicycle master plan and metropolitan transportation plan updates are on schedule to be adopted by our transportation policy board next Thursday. And if you're curious what those updates are, all the information is on our website. I'm also happy to answer any questions. As a reminder, we have our interactive bicycle master plan map on our bicycle master plan page that has all of the updated or the new projects to be added on it. And then our last kind of just informational fun piece of news is that the MPO purchased a cargo e-bike for us to use for getting around town for meetings and for delivering our boxes, very heavy boxes of bike maps that we give out for free around town. We also are happy to let anyone come try it out. You're welcome to borrow it. It's check in first, I guess, to see if we'll be there. But yeah, we're happy to kind of show or allow people to experience e-bikes and what they're about. So I think that's it, unless there are any questions. Thanks. Yeah, it's in the rail yard at it's like a distillery called As Above, So Below. It's right next to the Violet Crown.
Yeah, Member Spencer.
From Eric's email that I got, it sounded like it was gonna be pretty much informal and that there was not gonna be like any speaking or panel or anything like that, just meet and greet.
Yep, yeah,
Okay.
that's my understanding as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, one question, Mr. Chair. Leah, what time is that? What time is he going to be?
6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, you can buy, actually, I don't even know if they sell small plates. Yeah. Yeah, pay your own way. Nothing is included.
Question. And I did see maybe a question from an audience member. Happy to entertain that.
Yeah, sorry, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and we are we're part of the city, the county, the NMDOT, and the Pueblo of the Tesuque. No, I don't think so. I didn't mean to. No, that it's fortunate. I'm glad that they're on track.
Thank you so much for the update. Okay, let's go to move on to item 6C. Bike Santa Fe, Ms. Weber. Oh, different. Okay, fantastic. Well, welcome. And for membership, we included them to be providing updates on a monthly basis to us. So want to continue the strong partnership with Bike Santa Fe. So want to provide the opportunity for an update on a monthly basis. So with that, the floor is yours.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Chair and members of the board. My name is Becky Smith. I am with Bike Santa Fe, pronouns they, them. So I'm just going to give you a report out. We've had a really productive month. We held a city council candidate forum with 6 of the 10 candidates. And the forum was attended by around 40 members of the community, showing the importance of this to the city council. We've started planning a bike summit or conference for next May or June. We are also working on engaging our members and helping us determine priorities for our organization. We have already developed a new mission and vision that has been shared with our members. And then Bike Santa Fe would also like to express support for the resolution to expand the number of BPAC members to include a representative from the Mayor's Committee on Disability. Thank you. And any questions?
Members. Questions from the audience since I went last time. Okay, well, thank you, Bike Santa Fe, and happy to have you providing updates to us. Next up is item 6D, Public Safety Committee Member Spencer. Floor is yours.
Thank you. I was of limited use at this last Public Safety Committee since I was remoting in from home with a bad case of COVID. But I did ask during the police presentation what, if anything, the police department would be doing or was doing to increase the safety of bicyclists and pedestrians and the sense of bicyclists and pedestrians not being at risk being on our roads. And unfortunately, what the response I got was that much of the police enforcement was going to be directed where there were more crashes, more accidents. And since there are far more cars than bicycles, unless we start having more crashes, it looks like the emphasis is going to be on areas like, for example, Rodeo and Cerrillos, where there are a lot more car crashes. And when I asked, well, we don't really have a lot of data for bicycle crashes, but we do have a lot of people who think it's unsafe to bicycle. And the response I got was, well, we're going to be going by the numbers. So and that may be something we want to revisit later, especially in light of the enforcement questions that we filled out on the application for bicycle-friendly community in terms of, okay, we can't really wait for people to get hit by cars. What can we do to ensure that the roads are safer so that vulnerable user, like a bicyclist, an e-bicyclist, a person crossing the street, isn't intimidated? And I think that's the thing we can't measure is intimidation other than by low bicycle counts. So I didn't really want to push it too far because, as I said, I was doing it from home and sneezing into the phone a lot. But I think that's something we need to revisit at some point. And I'm not sure exactly how to do it. To some degree, the police are right. They have to be making a presence where we know we have problems. But in terms of me riding here tonight and almost getting hit by somebody making an illegal U-turn, there's not a citation. There was not a data. There was just me kind of looking around and saying, oh, that was nice. But those things don't get recorded other than by low turnout on the roads. So that was my faint contribution between sneezes. Sure. I think it was probably a little of both. I think if you look at the crash map, it pretty much follows our major arterials and follows intersections, which is where a lot of turning and crossing things are. And I think that's that sort of goes without saying, but it doesn't really explain the whole picture in terms of, I think, livability. Right. Right. That wasn't a question I asked them.
Also informal, they don't get quick collect. Here.
That might be something that we can explore in this committee, is whether we could set up some sort of an email in or text in of near misses. I mean, when I was working in a nuclear facility at Landell, one of the things that we constantly were told was that near misses are precursors to real accidents. And if you have a lot of near misses, one of these times when there's two near misses at the same place at the same time, you're going to have a bad one. And if there was a way for us to collect data on those, that may be something that we can use to aid the police and saying, okay, we need to worry about this too.
Mr. Chair, the IT, Ben asked all the members to use their microphones, or their comments will not be recorded.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we're
was-
just getting used to the new technology that we're using tonight, so.
I was just going to suggest that maybe all the bicycle groups send out notices to their members saying if you've been involved in a near miss, whatever, please report that to somebody. We need to set up maybe something. So we can at the end of year say there's 150
Do we have a way of doing that? With either with the police or with Public Works or this committee? To have some sort of a text, something where you could send texts or emails, but without sending them all to Ramella?
Not today.
I don't think we have such a system set up, but that doesn't mean we could not explore developing something. I think it's a great opportunity for us to begin to capture some critical data.
I think it would have to be in an official city portal or something for it to count. It couldn't be just like, well, send them to Cal or send them to
Right.
the
Right.
committee unofficially.
I mean, it can be as simple as setting up an email address to send it off to. So, I mean, I think that's where the body would like to discuss that. Happy to explore that further. Yes. Yes, yes, absolutely, Ms. Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, committee members. There is a tool called bikemaps.org that is a crowdsourced database of information about near misses, accidents, et cetera. It's used in other cities. I want to say Tucson or yeah, Arizona State. So this is something that we've talked about at Bike Santa Fe as an organization, a tool that already exists that we could encourage people to report into to crowdsource that information. So we wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel, but we'd welcome working with BPAC to push it out, push out that information and other organizations as well. And then we could bring it to the attention of the police department or the city as a whole.
What was the name of that?
It is bikemaps.org, I believe, or bikemap.org.
Maps. Mr. Chair, I really appreciate that, and I think that if we could have a little demo of it, I can see 6 accidents posted here. I'm not sure what the time interval is for Santa Fe, but I think that'd be a great thing for us to communicate to people, is just put this out there. It allows you to give details of what happened and the kind of the cause and impact. So think that's a great suggestion. Thanks very much.
Just to throw in a quick pitch for Chuck Marone tomorrow night. He's talked a lot about things like stroads, which are these wide, fast arterials that we see in our cities, which encourage speeding, which discourage good growth, which are hard to see small users like bicyclists and pedestrians. So I don't know if Chuck will talk about that tomorrow night if we ask him, but it's relevant to the whole discussion of how do you build roads through a city that aren't dangerous. That's it from me.
Any other questions for Member Spencer on his update? Okay, well, thank you, and thank you for bringing up bikemaps.org. And I think maybe next agenda, we should put a topic that way we can solely focus on that and figure out how we can begin to promote the potential use of that site, or maybe something else. But I think it's a great opportunity for us to explore capturing some data.
So I think if the police go by data, if we can come up with data, then we're on their page.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody, for those updates. Let's go ahead and move on to Section 7, discussion and possible action items. First up is item A, request for approval to amend Resolution 2021-8, Section 4, to provide for the appointment of a Mayor's Committee on Disability member to serve on Bicycling and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. Member Eisenstein, the item is yours.
Thank you. So I took a look at the Mayor's Committee on Disability, and the resolution basically talks about the formation of a committee and accommodations to people who have disabilities. And so there really wasn't much in this resolution to pull on as far as giving us any guidance. So I'll just put this open for discussion. Our section on membership is Section 4, and it currently says the committee shall consist of a member of the City Council, and then we have 9 members of the public, of whom 8 shall be residents of the city and 1 who may be a resident of Santa Fe County. And so the appointment says that we balance interest among recreationists, youth, neighborhood group users, commuters, bicyclists with council approval. So the question is how, if we want to do this, how should we revise the membership section to include a member with disability? Do we want to expand the number of members we have, or do we want to put something in that provision where we give some sort of precedence or basically work within the framework we have now? So with that, I will just open it up for comments from the other committee members.
Yeah, I've got one question, since right now it seems like we're kind of placed on 2 representatives from each council district, but that's not in our bylaws. So I think we need to revise the whole, if we want to do this, we should make sure we're putting in the bylaws or the resolution, I guess, as it is, the way that we're actually operating.
I think, first of all, it's a good idea. Since we are now a bicycling and pedestrian advisory committee, there are people on hand cycles, there are people who use wheelchairs, electric wheelchairs. And it would seem logical that we should have a person who is familiar with those sorts of issues more than we might necessarily be. When I was on the transportation board in Los Alamos, I worked pretty closely with LA Walks, and the chair of that public advocacy organization was a lady who was confined to a wheelchair, and she at times took us around on field trips to see, so we could see what it was like to live like she had to do. And that's probably not something that we would normally do in our everyday lives, not being disabled. So, I mean, we have 1 member from the county. It would seem logical that we could have 1 member from the Mayor's Committee on Disability. The only concern I have right now is we're running out of chairs in this room.
Thank you, member.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from membership?
Well, I just wanted to clarify, we're not saying that we're going to put someone on our committee from the Committee on Disability. Right, we're saying we want to have someone on our committee who has a disability. Because there's a committee, and are we saying, I guess I'm confused now because I thought we wanted to add someone to our committee who has a disability, but if we're choosing from the committee, right, so we need to clarify what we're talking about. Because the committee on the mayor's disability committee, these people may not be disabled.
Mr. Chair, and Yolanda, would it make sense for us to have someone on the committee recommended by the other committee? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I guess we should discuss exactly what we want to do on this, because I was a little bit confused, because there's a committee and I think there are 9 people on it, but not all of these people are disabled. So are we just saying we want a voice from that committee, or that we actually want someone on the committee who has a disability?
Member Pilcher, Member Gerlitz.
I think we can probably make, some guidelines of the people, the person that we want, and say that they number one, must have some sort of disability. I'm not so sure having somebody from the Committee on Disabilities, or whatever it's called, isn't a bad idea. I think if there are things that committee is doing that would be good for us to know about, or things that we're doing that would be good for that committee to know about, it'd be good to have somebody on that committee who's part of that. So I would just say, one recommendation would be that we ask for a person from that committee, as well as a person who, and also a person who is disabled or has some disability.
Yeah, I just think it could be a slippery slope. If we invite someone from this committee to be on our committee, then we're going to have other committees that may want to be on our committee as well. So, I don't know what we get into with that, but maybe we could invite them to give us a report every month, the way we have, the MPO and Santa Fe Conservation Trust, that we have someone from that committee report to us on their activities and what they're doing, rather than actually putting them on the committee.
Question about the mayor's committee. I assume it doesn't have the same status, I guess, as we do. We're established by resolution. I take it this is, the mayor's committee is established just by the mayor?
It's a resolution.
There's a resolution.
There is a
So
resolution.
It would continue beyond current mayor, should he not be reelected at the next election. That helps.
Yeah, and it mainly talks about, access and inclusiveness, and it talks about the formation of the committee itself, the appointments. They have 4 members doing, for a certain number of terms. They have a chairperson. So it's basically, it doesn't go into a lot of specifics about projects or a lot of purposes or duties and responsibilities, but it is a committee by resolution.
I would think in terms of any change we'd make to our resolution establishing this committee, we just want to say maybe someone appointed by that committee, and the mechanics can be worked out at a less formal level, without putting it in writing here. Might be, well, you recommend somebody to us, and we want to make sure the person has a disability, this isn't simply a able-bodied advocate. Yeah, just an opinion.
Just wanted to make sure. I thought it was. I just wanted to make sure you weren't waiting for a response. Member Gerlitz, and then Member Spencer.
Sure. I have a question for Leo on this matter, but it strikes me that for us, what would be most important is to have somebody that experiences challenge. Form where the problems are and hotspots. And I wonder, Leo, when the MPO does their bicycle master plan and others, do they have mechanisms that include the disability? Is their voice being represented? All the more reason then. Thank you.
question is maybe an indelicate one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Can we discriminate in appointing a person to a city committee if they're not disabled? It seems to me we're saying only disabled people may apply. Is that legal?
Well, anyway, we drafted the resolution would have to go through legal. So if there were a problem with it, then I think, they would flag that. What I was thinking is maybe we revise our resolution to just include something about, encouraging people with disabilities, because we talk about people who enjoy recreation or whatever, so that any of our positions, we would encourage people who have disabilities to apply. Or the other thing is we can add a specific position, but then what if we don't get anyone who applies? Then, we have to figure out, if we've got it in the resolution and it's mandated, then we have to find someone. So it may be that we can just open it up, and somehow when we advertise or however we recruit, we try to recruit someone with disabilities. So that's kind of our options.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to say I concur with Member Gerlitz. Absolutely, that's where I think this should go. Not automatically anyone from the existing mayor's committee, so that we shape it, or fashion it in some way that it's a representative or someone that does know the challenges literally on the ground getting around, however we can phrase that and get that legally, because I don't kind of caution this, we can add members like the slippery slope in this committee and that committee, and we really want someone that can give us information to do, it's pedestrian. So, yeah, that's my point.
Member Bo, then Member Painter, then Member Pilcher.
Mr. Chair, Yolanda, have you spoken to anybody or the staff liaison on the mayor's committee?
No, I haven't talked with anyone on the committee. I've just pulled the documentation.
Got it. Thanks. And I just want to offer a counter that someone who may be personally able-bodied but works with the disabled community might be a very good person to communicate. But I think reaching out to them and asking to that committee and asking how we might best get representation might be a good first step before we start writing things down. That's just a suggestion. Thank you.
Well, and just to follow up on that before I go to Member Painter, I have had discussions with Mayor's Commission on Disability, not necessarily appointing a member, but ensuring that any legislation that comes out of our body will go automatically to them. That will be part of the process. And so we've already started to initiate that, but I definitely like the thought of having somebody represent the disability community on our body as well. So there's been discussions, but not to the level that you're talking about. So just wanted to provide that context for transparency.
Sort of follow up with the point that Cal brought up a minute ago was, can we legally do it? I don't know. But I think we can say we're looking for somebody who can provide information on these things, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to say you're missing a leg or you can't walk or you can't talk, whatever. Just simply say somebody who can give us information. And that opens it up to either somebody who is disabled or somebody who works with disabled people. I think we're in pretty good shape. We could get somebody who is not disabled.
Recommend that we have the mayor's committee recommend someone to be placed on our committee and kind of shift the burden to them rather than us having to figure out who's going to meet whatever our criteria might be. And if we do have any criteria, that again, that be handled at a more kind of informal level rather than anything.
That's it.
I agree that we should probably talk to the disability committee, but the other thing I was going to mention is, since we already have a precedent for, say, having member of this committee and the Public Safety Committee, there's a recognition that we need to have crosstalk between committees, and that model has already been established. So maybe we should talk to that committee and then move forward with their concurrence rather than making a motion tonight and possibly ruffling feathers on that committee. I do support this idea then.
Yeah, the only question I have about having the committee appoint someone is that is different from the way every other member is appointed. We reach out to the public. So I don't know if that would create a problem if we do it differently than we do it with every other member. So I'd like to know from legal whether we can actually, appoint someone to our committee rather than have an outreach to the public. So I'd like to know that before we decide.
So the formal process is to have recommendations be provided to the mayor, and then the mayor appoints based off of those recommendations, and then the governing body approves those appointments. And so there's not a formal process that would prohibit us from and this is just an example, if we were able to work out an agreement with the other committee to say that we would like for you to appoint somebody or recommend somebody, and then we take that recommendation forward, similar to when we have a public call for names. Yeah, there's not necessarily a formal process. I mean, last night we approved folks where the recommendations came from the first judicial, can't remember the formal name, I apologize. I already forgot it, but the members of the Ethics Committee. The formal process is to have the mayor appoint, the governing body approve. How you get to the appointment, it can be differ. Yeah. But I think that's a great opportunity for us. Maybe next meeting, we just invite some membership from the Mayor's Committee on Disability. Obviously not enough to where they would break their quorum, but just have a dialogue and explain what we're trying to achieve. And they might have a different recommendation, different vision on how we can ultimately achieve. I think what the end goal is to have some representation and voice on this body representing the able-bodied community. Am I maybe misunderstanding the overall vision and goal is how we get there? The path might change, but I think that's the ultimate goal. And it'll allow us to have that cross-committee collaboration. I know that, as I mentioned, I've spoken with them about being more engaged in kind of the policy review process, and that's why I've committed anytime EPAC has anything coming through, we want to shift it, make sure we get their eyes and expertise and opinion on it. Any other comments on this agenda item? So I don't know if we need to have a motion to invite them to the next meeting, but I think we can have them just add on agenda item discussion and possible action items. That way we can potentially take action at the next meeting. Could we be able to come to some type of decision? I mean, I don't think that body will be able to provide recommendations on behalf of them, but maybe recommendations they provide us will be able to guide us somewhere, at least get the conversation continuing. No, it's a community member. Mr. Fresquez is the chair of that. Any other comments? Thank you for bringing this important topic up. I think there was already discussion, and thank you for helping push it along, Member Eisenstein. Great opportunity for cross collaboration and ensuring that as this committee is working to review any policy, that we're doing it from a holistic perspective. Okay, so with that, let's go to move on to item 7B, which is request for approval to amend resolution 2018-72 to provide directions or guidance for the installation and maintenance of sharrows. Member Pingley, this item is it.
So our subcommittee met a few days ago and discussed the effectiveness of sharrows and concluded that they're not as effective as previously thought. And so we want to change the resolution. So in the packet, if you go to page 45, we would like to add a whereas clause. Says, whereas Sharrow road markings are confusing to many drivers and bicyclists and have not been proven to improve bicycle safety and require significant amount of ongoing maintenance. And then we would also like to insert also on page 45, the, I guess below line 6, the now therefore, we'd like to put in on line 9, the cease the use of Sharrow signs, and then insert and Sharrows, and adopt bicycles may use full lane signs.
Just, and is the language for the whereas clause in the packet or? Okay. Sorry, I was looking at
Was
the
it on?
resolution that's in the packet. Oh, you just read it.
I don't actually, I looked for it, but I don't think it is in there.
I think you just read what the language that would be adding a new whereas clause thing.
Yeah.
Can you send it to Romella? Romella, send it to all of us. That way folks can review the actual language that's being proposed in front of us. That way, I think the second recommendation definitely can understand that it's adding Sharrows to the cease. I just want to make sure that the entire body fully understands the proposed whereas. That way we can take action.
Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, isn't it the policy, planning, and law subcommittee needs to draft the amendments? And so my understanding is that the technical review subcommittee can recommend stopping the use of sharrows on our roadways or installation of our roadways, but the policy, planning, and law needs to draft the amendments.
Member Spencer.
What if the policy, law, and planning members here agree to the wording and endorse it?
Yeah, and I think
Seems to me that we should be working together anyway with technical review people on something like this.
And I guess my question for Romella is in regards to, is that in a resolution or is it just by practice?
So, Mr. Chair, that's not what is on the agenda.
Gotcha. Well, on the agenda, it's a request for approval of to amend the resolution. And I think that we could take possible action on that.
Mr. Chair, Ben, would you mind reading that whereas clause that we developed one more time? It's not that complicated.
Whereas Sharrow road markings are confusing to many drivers and bicyclists and have not been proven to improve bicycle safety and require significant ongoing maintenance.
Oh, okay, what page are you on and what line?
Brand new language, not written down in your packet.
Oh,
You're adding a whereas.
Yes. So it would be the inserting a whereas clause on page
45.
3. But I'm reading
Oh,
the
of the
resolution
actual
itself. It
resolution.
would be on page 3 of the resolution, beginning with line 6, because things would shift down. You would enter that new whereas clause that was just read. And then you would also, existing line 9, you would insert the additional language of Sharrows, where it's directing to cease the use of certain things, so it's cease the use to share the road and Sharrows, from my understanding.
Correct.
So are you pulling them up, Romola, just so folks can see? I think. And I think just for future purposes, if we get into the practice of proposing amendments, let's make sure they're in the packet. That way the public's well aware of what we're addressing, not only with the proposed amendment, but the actual language. That way we can always modify and adopt different language, but we want the public to be aware of
Yeah,
what is
so,
being proposed.
yeah, so, when the agenda was drafted, I was not thinking that the technical review committee will include a motion on the amendments because that needs to be public. The agenda item is not to approve the amendments in the resolution.
And so a quick fix, I mean, what we can do tonight is approve the language and move it to policy law subcommittee for their further approval. And then that way the next meeting, the full body can approve the amendments or a resolution amendment, and we can get it out of BPAC's hands, so to speak. If that's a way we can move it forward procedurally. And that's fine with the policy law and review.
Right, because sometimes when I'm reading something, this language may impact something else that we hadn't really thought through. So yeah, I'd like to take a look at the whole resolution, and there may be something that, okay, if we put the language here, this may impact something in another provision. So yeah, I would appreciate just being able to read the whole resolution with the new language and make sure that we're all comfortable with it. So yeah, that makes sense.
Mr. Chair and Yolanda, I think another thing that when we met that I think is important for you to look at, if that's the go forward, we actually looked at some of the other now therefore clauses. Now therefore we shall do stuff that hasn't been done with a year of passage. So if you're going to reopen this resolution, it might be in your interest to say, okay, now put up the signs that it says you were going to put up back then. And so we had a significant conversation about a lack of inventory. We don't really know where the bicycle may use full lane signs are. I think the city does not have the database to do that. But there may not be the 5-foot safety signs that are referenced in this as well. So I think if we just want to pass that along as you do look at this resolution, you might also want to tune up some of that language as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's 5 years old, so it's time to probably just take another look at it.
To follow up, it does say, as soon as practical, but no less than 1 calendar year from the date of adoption. 5 years, so there needs to be a little help there. The other thing was, I was wondering, are there other groups, be it somebody in public works or something, that would want to see this language? Because it doesn't really put any more effort on their part, but they need to be aware of it. And it may mean removing some.
Great question, and I think it would go through their vision anyway, their view, because as it goes through the formal process.
Technical question, do we know how much money's being spent on Sharrow maintenance?
It's in the packet. There's at the, for the staff report, there's a report from the city traffic operations engineer that they need more funding. There was $600,000 that was spent for this year, and they're running out of funding.
The reason I asked if there's a specific dollar amount, so we don't lose that money, this gets sucked up into the big public works stew pot and gets ladled out onto some other type of project, because that's gonna be with bicycling.
For Sharrows, if I remember it correctly, about 2 years ago, the traffic operations manager said that for one set of Sharrow, they had to pay $400.
Thank you.
Okay. Comments or questions? Member
So-
Spencer?
So we're gonna put the proposed wording on paper right now so that it can be passed on to us, or is that gonna be done after the meeting? How are we gonna know what we're?
Remember, I mean, it's in, Ms. Gloria Samas sent it to us via email, so. Can we pull it up on the projector, so that folks can see that might not have access to it? We get Ben? Ben? Mr. Ben in the back. Oh, there we go. Oh, no, that's,
Why are we pulling this up right now?
why are we put, that way, everybody can see what they're gonna be voting on. The proposal, and nobody's made a motion, it's just been proposed that the body approve or move this language to the policy, refer it to the Policy Law and Review Subcommittee for the review and drafting, final drafting of the proposed language, then which would come back to us, similar fashion for a final approval of a proposed amendment to the resolution.
Mr. Chair, could a member of the technical committee make that in the form of a motion so they can kick it to us, or do we need to do that?
Yeah, it would be a motion sending it to you all, referring it to your subcommittee.
I would like to move for the Policy and Planning and Law Subcommittee to draft the amendments
Based off of the,
based off of what's on the screen.
gotcha, thank you, member.
If that's sufficiently precise, I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion?
To move for Policy and Planning and Law Subcommittee to draft the amendments that I had stated about Resolution 2018-72. Did I know?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes, I think the intent is there in regards to using the proposed language, referring the proposed language to the Policy Law and Review Subcommittee for further drafting. Am I understanding?
Yes.
clear.
I think I already did, but unless that's a new motion.
Oh, I'll move. Okay, got it.
All right.
Okay, any discussion on the move? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Glorioso Mas, can we get a roll call vote on this motion, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Member Abo? Member Board Gray? Member Eisenstein?
Yes.
Member Gerlitz? Member Painter? Member Pilcher? Member Pengili? Member Spencer?
Yes.
Chair Garcia?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Any other discussion on this topic? Okay, well, thank you to the Technical Review Subcommittee for drafting this language. It's a good fix, good cleanup. That's much past due. Thank you. Let's go to move on to item C. Appointment of member Erica Bowe to the Santa Fe County's Transportation Safety Committee to serve on the Technical Working Group to review and provide oversight on county road safety plans and strategies. Ms. Glorioso Mas, this item is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, the Santa Fe County's Transportation Safety Committee has reached out to me via Ms. Hannah Burnham about a month ago, who can represent BPAC on their committee. And I thought of, since member Eric Abo represents the county to our committee, that he should be representing BPAC to this Transportation Safety Committee. So staff is requesting the chair to appoint member Abo.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Glorioso Mas. Any discussion or questions from members?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought it'd be useful to briefly go over the purpose of this subcommittee. So the county has a Transportation Advisory Committee that meets quarterly. And I believe in order to, they are beefing up the safety contribution to this Transportation Advisory Committee in order to qualify for federal funding and the Safe Streets for All program. So they have a subcommittee that I believe Eric Awney from the MPO, a number of folks from Santa Fe County Fire, Sheriff, and various folks in the planning, I guess that's Growth Management Department, are involved. So they've asked that that a BPAC appointee be appointed, as well as an alternate from BPAC, in case I'm unable to attend the quarterly meeting. So I said that I would, if appointed, I would happily serve on this, and so I just want to give that context.
Member Bowe, Member Spencer.
Sorry. Sorry. Do we need a motion that would include both appointing Mr. Abo and an alternate all in one swell hoop?
Yes, I guess I don't know who alternate would be, so we can open up the floor for that as well.
Okay. Mr. Chair.
Be transparent, I'm on the county's tax. Just want to bring it up.
Other comments, questions? Spencer.
I move that the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee appoint member Erica Bowe to the Santa Fe County's Transportation Safety Committee to serve on the Technical Working Group, and also appoint an alternate in case he can't be there.
Regards to the alternate. Well, let me, is there a second before we? We got a second. In regards to the alternate, did they ask for us to, or just, what was the guidance given from them?
They just ask Member Abo to choose his alternate, but since this is a big, I believe the chair needs to appoint the alternate and not Member Abo.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I don't believe I'm intended to appoint. I believe you might want to ask for volunteers to see if anybody on BPAC would be interested. But I was not looking for appointing an alternate.
Guess I'll open it up to floor for any nominations or nominations of self.
If Dan is already on it, do we need an alternate?
Mr. Chair, my understanding in reading the purposes of this, the Transportation Advisory Committee needs a subcommittee specifically on safety. So I believe Dan's contribution to the Transportation Advisory Committee does not allow them to have a subcommittee that is sufficient for them to meet the federal requirements to go for the Safe Streets for All program and request infrastructure funding. So while your contributions are useful, they don't really help in this particular bureaucratic sense.
So any, Member Spencer?
Mr. Chair, does the motion, if we pass it, require us to appoint an alternate right now, or does it just empower us to appoint an alternate once we identify one?
I think the way the motion was stated is it empowers us to identify an alternate at a future date. We're not identifying one right now.
Okay, that gives us a little more flexibility rather than arm twisting.
We can move forward with this motion and then seek interest and maybe next meeting have an alternate appointed. No, I did ask if there were any self-nominations or interest.
What about members of the subcommittee, the tax subcommittee, or our technical review subcommittee? Can that person be an alternate? Or does it have to be a BPAC member?
Mr. Chair, I would be happy to communicate with them and ask them what they're looking for in an alternate, if that would help. You know, he doesn't have alternates for Eric, Leah. So at least they're not identified in this sheet. So I'll just ask them for the qualifications of a proposed alternate and communicate that back before the next meeting. Thank you.
And that would allow us to buy time. That way nobody's put on the spot to volunteer, and I don't want to voluntold anybody to be an alternate. So I would say, if you're interested, think about it, and by the next meeting, feel free to, we can self-nominate after Member Abo comes back with a little more clarification, if that's okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Then, Ms. Gloriosa Mas, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Member Abo,
Yes.
Member Bird Gray, Member Eisenstein,
Yes.
Member Gerlix, Member Painter, Member Pilcher,
Yes.
Member Pingelly,
Yes.
Member Spencer,
Yes.
Chair Garcia,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, well, good luck and represent us well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so next up on our item is item D, request for approval of the 2024 BPAC meeting schedule. Ms. Gloriosa Mas, the floor is yours.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Unfortunately, I don't have the dates.
I can run through them if you'd like, if you don't have them in
Yes,
front of
I
you.
don't have it.
Okay, sure. So the 2024 BPAC regular meeting schedule is every second Thursday of the month to take place here at City Hall Council Chambers, 200 Lincoln Avenue, with the first meeting beginning January 1st, or January 11th, then February 8th, then March 14th, then April 11th, then May 9th, then June 13th, then July 11th, and August 8th, September 12th, October 10th, November 14th, and December 12th. So that is the proposed calendar right now for BPAC. There might be some modifications in regards to location. I think there might be a date or two that might conflict with some of, I think maybe planning commission, some other meetings, but we will work to approve this agenda, this proposed dates. The location might change. But we're approving the location and dates at this moment. This member.
Yes, I think it might be helpful, Romella, if maybe the next meeting, we know who terms out. I think I term out next year in July, maybe, but no. Anyway, I think it might be helpful because I don't remember from one year to the next. I know at some point I'm going to term out. So maybe if we could put that on the agenda so everybody knows how many terms we have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been on this committee since God was a child too, so we may want to plan ahead.
There you go. Any other discussion on the proposed meeting schedule? If not, may I get a motion to approve, please?
I'd
Move
move
to-
to approve.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Glorioso Mas, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Certainly. Member Abo,
Yes.
Member Bird Gray, Member Eisenstein,
Yes,
Member Gerlitz,
Yes.
Member Painter, Member Pilcher,
Yes.
Member Pengili,
Yes.
Member Spencer,
Yes.
Chair Garcia,
Yes.
motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And then as we update the locations, we'll make sure folks are well aware should locations change. Let's go ahead and move on to the last item in this section, which is item E, the staff liaison report. Ms. Glorioso Mas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this report is like a continuation from last month's report. So I'm reporting on the Complete Streets Division accomplishments. So to understand Complete Streets Division, Complete Streets has 4 sections: the streets, roadways, and trails, which you are the advisory committee; the streets drainage and maintenance, traffic engineering, and traffic operations. Our section, the streets, roadways, and trails, design and construct streets, roadways, bridges, overpass, underpass, and trails. The streets and drainage maintenance is they maintain the streets and stormwater drainage. So they do pavement rehabilitation, snow removal, potholes, etc. The traffic engineering, they conduct research for safe and efficient traffic flow, such as road geometry, sidewalks, crosswalks, cycling infrastructure, traffic signs. And the traffic operations section, they do the traffic signals, signage, and pavement markings. So the accomplishments for streets, roadways, and trails, which again, I wish to emphasize, you are our advisory committee, for this year, we are working on 23 capital projects, of which 12 are roadways, 6 are intersection improvements, 4 are trails, and 1 wayfinding. Out of 23 capital projects, 15 projects are under design phase and 8 are under construction phase. For this year, we finished the Camino Entrada roundabout. We've also completed the West Alameda Culvert Reconstruction Project. We have started the Guadalupe Bridge deck rehabilitation last September 15. And after that project, which we anticipate completing by 2nd week of December, we will move to the Guadalupe Street reconstruction. That project will last for 1 year. This project is almost fully funded by the federal government through Highway Safety Improvement Program for $11 million. We also started the Agua Fria South Meadows intersection improvements in, I believe, September also of this year. That project will last from 6 to 9 months. Our future construction projects include the Cañada Rincon Trail, which will start construction on November 27. The El Camino Real Academy Trail, which will start construction winter break of this year. That project is very important to be constructed as soon as possible because the Santa Fe Public Schools have stopped the school buses that services the Cottonwood Mobile Home Park. The Agua Fria Cottonwood roundabout project starts spring break 2024. And the Tierra Contenta Trail extension from Buffalo Grass to South Meadows also starts spring break 2024. All these projects are funded by a federal government 100%. So the other section called streets and drainage maintenance, they filled 5,392 potholes in 2023. There's 70,000 linear foot of cracks sealed in 2023. Also, their accomplishments are pavement rehabilitation. There are 3 pavement rehabilitation projects that are completed in 2023. The Sirius Road from Camino Carlos Rey to Cielo Court, the Rodeo Road from Camino Carlos Rey to Yaca, and Yaca from Rodeo Road to Zia. Depending on the weather, we may start pavement rehabilitation of Henry Lynch Road. The Paseo de las Vistas Road will be rehabilitated spring next year. And for the BPAC project, the Bachman Road pavement rehabilitation, the design will be completed spring next year. And I will apply for funding to construct that project. The traffic operations section. 9 miles of new striping. That means crosswalks, lane arrows, and stop bars throughout the city. 17 sharrows were installed. And as you can see in the picture, 2 years ago, there was a recommendation from BPAC to use directional sharrows, not just ordinary sharrows, but directional sharrows. So you can see in the picture, that's a different type of sharrows from old ones. The St. Francis signals timed, and the Camino Pintores and Zia flashing warning beacon installed. These are your points of contact. Our Complete Streets Acting Division Director and Public Works Department Director, Regina Wheeler. I am your contact for roadways and trails section. Mr. Felipe Trujillo is the Streets Superintendent in Streets and Drainage Maintenance section. The Traffic Engineer, Jean Wolfenbarger from Traffic Engineering section, and Mike Dalmolin from, he's the traffic operations engineer from traffic operations section. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Member Gerlitz.
Thank you. Garcia and Glorioso Moss, thank you. Could you go back to that slide that showed Rodeo Road? And right there, so a couple of questions there. It's the first time I've seen that there's a bit of a buffer lane, two stripings. Who decides that? Is that MPO that decides that? Is that Public Works that decide that? That's one question. And then the second question is that even though it's not a protected bike lane, I'd certainly like to see, it's better than just a single stripe. And where else is the city planning to put those in? Those are my questions.
To answer you, Chair Garcia, Member Gerlitz, to answer your first question, who decides where to put the buffered bike lanes, where to stripe, etc. That's the job of the city traffic engineer, Gene Wolfenbarger. Where are we going to include? So the roadways and trail section are working on a number of reconstruction projects. So the first one, which will be implemented, is the Guadalupe Street. So we're reconstructing that roadway to add bicycle lanes and sidewalks, which is designed by an engineer. So, and then we're working on Henry Lynch. That's another reconstruction project. We are adding bicycle lanes and sidewalks on both sides of the road. So for those kinds of projects, we hire a professional engineer to design our projects. But in some cases, like this one, when we do pavement rehabilitation, the city traffic engineer has decided, with the agreement of Public Works Department Director, to also stripe the road for buffered bike lanes, not protected bike lanes that BPAC, I think, wishes to do, and SFMPO, because of the maintenance problems of protected bike lanes. We have no equipment to maintain protected bike lanes, remove snow, etc.
Thank you for answering that, Mela, because that was my question. What's the obstacle there for not having protected bike lanes? And I think you answered that. It's funding. Is that it? Funding and maintenance.
The funding to construct what protected bike lane is the easiest one to do. There's a lot of money. There's lots of federal programs to construct a protected bike lane. The problem is maintenance. Because maintenance is not funded by the federal government or state government, it comes from our operational funds. And like, for example, pavement markings, it's not, the funding for that is not consistent. When the resolution for maintenance, the maintenance resolution gets introduced, etc., you will see the fiscal impact for that resolution. It's like we need $3 million a year for maintenance of all these roadways, pavement markings, signals, signage, etc.
Do you think if somehow out of the sky $3 million appeared, that there's a will, desire, to put those things in? Or is that yet another obstacle?
So I'm still waiting for the resolution to be introduced. So my department director is taking over the, that, that resolution, like writing the memo, writing the financial impact, etc. But I believe protected bike lanes is not included in that amount. The maintenance of sidewalks that's owned by the city, of course, all pavement markings, that is included. Because if we need to maintain trails also, and trails are included in that maintenance resolution. And when you maintain trails, we need more staff. And that, I'm not quite sure. We will discuss it when the resolution is introduced. How many staff we need to add, for example, to maintain all these pavement markings, etc. And if you look at your packet, the pavement markings report or update that I included there was it was written by the Mike Dalmolin, the traffic operations engineer. And you will see that in 2020, there was $100,000 that was allotted for pavement markings. And then in 2021, another 500,000. He used up all those money. And there's no funding for the next fiscal year. So he is now talking with our department director to give him more funding for pavement rehab, pavement markings, etc. And that's only markings, signals, signage. It doesn't include street maintenance, snow removal. So maintaining all our infrastructure is so expensive, and we cannot get it from state or federal government.
Thank you. I mean, that's a very comprehensive answer. I think the frustration is that clearly other cities and other municipalities are able to do it. And northbound cities with a lot more snow than we get, somehow able to do that.
Thank you for that report. A couple of questions. One is looking at that buffer, and it looks kind of narrow. Are there any NACTO or MUCTD guidelines on how wide a buffer should be? Or is it pretty much up to the engineer and space available?
Chair Garcia, Member Spencer, I cannot answer that question. I'm not the traffic engineer.
Okay, yeah, the
Thank
other
you.
thing I would worry about in terms of maintenance is snow. If you have physical barriers, then you're essentially going to have to find a place to put the snow that's to the roadway side of any barrier, as well as make sure you have a separate narrow plow, like a Bobcat or something, to plow the separated bike lane. But in a situation like that picture where it's basically a buffer, I'd want to be sure that our snow removal crews are plowing, past the gutter pan and making sure that buffered bike lane at least is completely clear. I mean, it's the easier way to do it rather than try to figure out how to work around an actual physical barrier. But we want to make sure we do it right, regardless of how we design it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate that Member Gerlitz brought this up. I actually live there, and as you've heard from me, as I've been on this committee, I've watched this project, and I've been pleased to see 2 bike lanes on both sides. I don't think we had that before, and the striping makes all the difference. So I've wondered also how we got that design, and if that's standard or how that works. So, I'd like to see, really why the roadways there's still room to bring them in, 2 lanes, but, I had a question about, from your presentation about, you said there was a wayfinding project, and I was curious to know what that is.
The wayfinding project is a BIPAC it's a BIPAC project that is started before I became a BIPAC staff liaison. I became a BIPAC staff liaison in same time as the chair became the chair. That was 2020, Mr. Chair. So the wayfinding is, so it's very different just from signage. They replaced the bike route signage. So the wayfinding signage is more informative than an ordinary wayfinding signage. So there are 3 phases for this project. Phase A, which is focused on downtown and rail yard. Phase B and C, I have asked Mr. Tim Rogers, who is the consultant working on the wayfinding signage, to email or send me the fee proposal for phase B and C. And that's the update for the wayfinding project. I think Member Spencer was member of the committee already when the BPAC decided to have this project. I was not I was not yet the BPAC liaison, staff liaison, or working for Public Works.
Okay, thank you for that. So it's wayfinding in this sense is wayfinding signage. That's more informational. That's great. So it's not like the urban design term of an architectural design, wayfinding.
No.
Okay.
And you can see it around, especially rail yard district and downtown.
There's a lot more, there's a lot more wayfinding signs than there were a few years ago, that's for sure. It's helpful.
So thank you so much for the update.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. That, let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which is we're getting the subcommittee communications. First up is item A, policy planning and law. Member Eisenstadt.
Thank you, Chair Garcia. So just a couple of leftover items from last month. I think Eric Ani was going to send me an update on the land use code rewrite. And I've been out of town, so I might have gotten something, but I don't think I received anything from him. So I'll follow up with him on that, as we don't have anyone from the MPO here right now. So that's one item that I need to follow up on. And the other item was, Chair Garcia, we talked about the legislative priorities, and I can't recall what we decided to do. You were working on that, I think, in terms of what the city was going to do, and we kind of thought it might be nice to see that.
So the city adopted our legislative priorities last night. I'm happy to share that with Ms. Gloria Samas, and she can pass it off to the full body.
Okay.
It is a pretty extensive document in the sense it's got 5 top priorities, requests for capital outlay, but I want to say 10 pages of supports. We will support this legislation, and Member Spencer and I were before the meeting talking about the addition last night of that got added to it. So I'll send it to you now, and then she can send it to everybody, and feel free to
Okay,
review that.
great, great. Thank you. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for that update. We removed item 8B since member Gabriel is not with us. And so we're going to move on to item 8C, Technical Review Subcommittee. Member Pingley.
I think the only thing that I have is that I will be resigning as the chair. And Dan is going to take over. Do I need to make a motion?
I think it's within the purview of the body. If you want to hand the baton off, fantastic. So, thank you for serving as the chair. Really appreciate all the energy and effort you put in. Lots of meetings you had to attend that you might not have anticipated. So thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, of course. That was the only update. Make sure I don't want to catch up.
I think so, yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and go on to the next item, which is staff, right? I just closed my agenda, so. Staff.
Matters from staff. Oh, I just, 2 weeks ago, I sent an email, a heads up that the rail trail will be closed at intersections of St. Mike's, 2nd Street, and Siler, and it has not happened yet because the Rail Bureau told us that we need, in order for us to undertake drilling on Rail Trail and St. Mike's, we need to have a flagger. And we have no funding to hire a flagger. And so the Rail Bureau said that they will provide us a flagger while we are conducting drilling, but they don't know when they can provide us a flagger. So that's when we hear from Rail Bureau and we're calling them at least once a week, then I will send out an email. And then also email our partners like Bike Santa Fe, Seniors on Bike, etc. And there's another trail that will be closed off. I think they started construction this week, and that's the Tierra Contenta Trail. I do not know how many days it will be closed. I think those are all the trails that will be closed off to the public. And then I also suggest some members of the community is complaining about the length of time that the public is informed for these trail closures, and in the ordinance, they only need 7 days to inform the public, and I think it's not enough. So I may be working with SFMPO or other members of Public Works to set up the guidelines for a stronger public engagement in our projects. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Clario-Samas. Question for members.
That's just a comment that with the rail trail closure, Ramel and I tried to get some publicity in the Santa Fe, New Mexican, but because of the problem with the flaggers, that basically got kicked down the road and we weren't really able to do anything, but wanted to thank you for helping out with that.
Thank you, Member Spencer. Any other questions from Clario? Seeing none, thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to the next item, which is matters from the committee. Yes, Member Pilcher.
forgot to bring this up at the last meeting. I just wanted to comment that I was a little surprised to see that the new teen center, which opened late September on the south side, has a single bike rack, which seems rather inadequate potentially for a user group of many who I assume cannot drive cars. I'm not sure that, maybe that meets the minimum code standard, but I'm not sure how well it's models what we'd like to see as a city with other users. Anyways, I haven't gone by there yet while the teen center's in use to see whether or not there are a bunch of bikes parked all over the place.
That's a good point. Member Spencer.
One thing I hadn't thought about at all until Yolanda Eisenstein brought it up is term limits. Are we hardwired off this committee after a certain number of terms? And I guess it'd be nice to get a schedule as to when I turn into a pumpkin.
Sure. And then from what I recall, it's 6 years, 3 terms, 6 years that you can serve.
I think I'm getting there.
Yeah, and I think we'll work to get that, just so everybody's kind of aware and they can plan for the future. Any other member Painter?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to inform folks that that Ramella and her team put a pre-proposal meeting together to restart the pedestrian crossings at the rail trail. I believe it's at 4 intersections at Paseo, at Second, at Ringo and Rodeo. And so there was discussion of the early design and discussion of what needed to be added into scope to spin that contract back up. So that's something that I'm the BPAC appointee to that project on, and we met to briefly discuss that. And it just reminded me when Rail Bureau said they needed a flagger for to stop that Rail Bureau involvement will be probably critical at a number of these intersections because it all is paralleling the rail trail.
Turbo, is that going to include the Rabbit Road crossing at the end of the paved section?
No, that is not included in this.
Okay. That could be a little interesting.
Yeah, that's a DOT facility, is my understanding. And so I'm not sure. I believe they may be doing work associated with that. That's because as the northeast and southeast connector gets built out, I believe DOT is really going to need to make improvements along that whole stretch.
That's my concern because that's an incredibly popular route for people.
Mr. Chair, Dan, no, since once they drill holes and if they don't find oil, then they will be doing an underpass. Maybe if they do find oil, they'll be doing 2 underpasses. So that's not part of this job. This job is really to do crossing improvements, except at Rodeo, there were significant hardscape to extend and to change the crossing at Rodeo. So it's just the intersections other than St. Mike's.
Member Vertigo.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, we've already talked about the rodeo, Yucca intersection. What I've noticed is that the traffic lights have been changed and we wait a lot longer at rodeo, and I don't want to complain, but they must have changed that. I'm wondering if that was in reaction, make it safer. I'm just curious it really has changed, because it used to just be, there's some traffic jams. Yeah, I'm not complaining, but, well, yeah, it really has changed in conjunction with this.
Mr. Chair, Member Painter and Member Borgere, I will mention that to Mike Dalmolin. But what I understand is he's working on Cerrillos. All the traffic lights or traffic signals on Cerrillos. He is redoing the timing. The history is that for 3 years now, if we did not have a traffic engineer. But this year we have a traffic engineer and a traffic operations engineer. So that's the job of traffic operations engineer, the timing of all the signals. But I will mention your concerns to him.
Member Spencer.
Yep, Ms. Glorioso Mas, I'll second the timing question. That it seems lately, like the last few months, when the light turns red on St. Francis Drive at Alameda, traffic often backs up past Crucitas, and you end up with gridlock, and people are doing some pretty dangerous things there. I almost witnessed a high-speed T-bone crash there yesterday while I was crossing on my bicycle. So if you want, I'll send you an email that can be passed on to Traffic Division.
Any other comments? All right. Next matters from the chair. I've got none tonight. Our next meeting is Thursday, December 14th. I'm always celebrating. Life is a celebration. So look forward to seeing everybody next December 14th. And so with that, our meeting is adjourned earlier than our last meeting. So everybody have a good evening.